Welcome everybody, and welcome Annamie Paul to our video interview today. Thank you so much for coming and for the time that you're spending with us. I'm just going to introduce myself. I'm Shirley Roberts, and I'm the coordinator of the steering committee for the coroner. And my co-host today is?
I'm Alan Muhammad, and I'm the community resource worker for St. Jamestown Community Coroner.
Great. So as we all know, this is Black History Month, and this is an opportunity to shine a light on Black leaders in our community. And we're particularly thrilled to have a woman who is a Black leader in our community. So just for our audience, I'm going to read out, or I'm just going to give a little introduction to Annamie Paul, who is a Canadian politician, activist, and lawyer, who is the leader of the Green Party of Canada, serving since October 2020. She is the first Black Canadian and first Jewish woman to be elected leader of a federal party in Canada. She was a candidate in the 2019 Canadian federal election, running in the riding of Toronto Centre, which includes St. Jamestown. Annamie is the proud daughter of immigrants to Canada who moved from the Caribbean in the 1960s. Her professional life has largely been focused on international issues, and she has been active in promoting diversity in Canadian politics and has published articles and policy papers on social inclusion and representation in Canadian politics. So again, welcome, Annamie. So I'm going to start off with a couple of questions. What motivated you to strive for a leadership position representing St. Jamestown?
That one is easy. The people of St. Jamestown, the story of people in St. Jamestown, you can tell from what you just read, Shirley, is really my story. My family came here from the Caribbean. They came here seeking a new life, seeking opportunity, and also a bit of adventure. You know, it's not always a story of tragedy that brings people here, but also just wanting a new beginning too. And they had to start from scratch. My mom had been a teacher. She had to start from scratch again. My grandma had been the head nurse on the tiny island they came from. She actually never managed to regain her career because of the foreign credential requirements. And so the people in St. Jamestown, really, when I look at the people there, I see myself, the same hope, opportunity that my family came with. I want to make sure that they have the same opportunities that I did, and actually more, and that things are easier, because they should be, because it's 40 plus years later, and they deserve strong leadership. They deserve someone who's just going to wake up thinking about how to make life better for them every day.
That's great. Yes, St. Jamestown is such a such a rich community in so many ways, isn't it? Right. So my next question is, how are you supported to pursue your career as a leader?
I still am. It never ends. I can tell you, no one does it alone, ever. And the higher up you go, and the more you're a first, the more you absolutely rely on support, just all kinds of emotional support, logistical support, financial support. People willing to give you their time, people willing to give you good advice, sometimes a shoulder to cry on. It really, is a never-ending thing. And I could not do one single day of work or have accomplished one single thing, either in this role or even before, without that. So I try to, let's say, pay it forward myself. I try to make sure that even now, if a student calls me and says that they want to talk and get advice, I always will find time, even if it's 15 minutes, to give advice. I try to help set people, particularly young Black people in the community, on the path, let's say, towards realizing whatever their dreams are. So yes, and I would also say this, your support can come in the most unlikely places as well. Sometimes we focus on the obvious leaders, but there's a lot of wisdom and advice and support that can come from other people as well. And for me in general, I would say most of my best support has come from, it's not flashy people, just people willing to give their time and support.
Great, thank you.
Okay, as Canada is a diverse country and we're coming from all around the world, and you lived with an immigrant family, what are the challenges your family faced and what change you're hoping for?
The foreign credentials one is a really big one. You know, it's a really big one. And as I said, we should be way, way further ahead than we are now. You know, one of the I think misconceptions, it's not I think, I know, one of the misconceptions, for instance, about St. Jamestown is that there's a low level of education, right? These are still the stereotypes that circulate. Whereas St. Jamestown actually has an excessive amount of graduates, of post-secondary graduates, people with you know, multiple degrees. I mean, it's actually it's disproportionate compared to the rest of the population. And so the key is to make sure that all of that talent that we have managed to attract to Canada actually can be used and unleashed, and not just for our sake, but also because it's a terrible waste of potential when people aren't able to work in their fields. And that was really the case for my family more than anything. My mom came here, she'd already been a teacher for a number of years. I mean, quite a number of years, even though she was fairly young. And she had credentials that should have been recognized, but they didn't believe that a Black woman of her age could have already achieved these credentials, and they thought that they weren't real. It seems unbelievable, but remember back in the 60s, we didn't have the digital fingerprint that we could now to trace documents. And so she had to start right back from the beginning. She worked as they called it back then a domestic. I guess now we call it a live-in housekeeper and nanny. That's how she managed to come here. And she had to go back and get her degree from York. She had to get her teaching certificate all over again. And then she eventually went on to get her master's degree at U of T with 4 kids and working full time and sending money back to the family back in the Caribbean. So it should not be that challenging to restart your career once you get here. We have to have a credible pathway for people to be able to work in the professions that they choose.
Thank you. As a Black woman, what are the obstacles that you face pursuing leadership roles?
How much time do we have? Is everyone cozy? Or we must settle in. Well, you know, it's boy. Let me shrink down the question a little bit in my mind so I can answer it. There are some barriers that they're not exclusive to Black women, for instance, but to underrepresented groups, equity-seeking groups, when they try to get involved in politics. A couple of the biggest ones are having access to the money and even more importantly, the human resources that you need to be able to run. Because it's really nice to have donations to support your campaign, but you really need just a small army of volunteers as well to help you with the work. And so if you know, for instance, if you're a new Canadian, if you're a recent immigrant and you're trying to get involved in politics to run, having access to that network can be a challenge, definitely. Having role models is also a challenge. For me, I feel very lucky that as I was growing up, there was a generation of women exactly the same age as my mom who managed to be the first, you know, Zinena Conde, who was a minister here in Ontario, a Black female minister, Jean Augustine, the first Black member of cabinet, I want to say, either first Black person or first Black woman. And there are some other examples. So at least I had those, but we really cannot underestimate how important it is to see yourself reflected in institutions. So I hope I'm doing something to make it easier for the next person. At least when they see me, they know that it's possible. Even if I can't tell them that it's easy, it is not easy, but it definitely is possible. Though again, those are just some of the things. I guess I always want to leave a message of hope. So I would say that the barriers are there, but they are overcomable. And more there are resources available for people like you and me, Ella, who want to Well, I don't know if you do. I'm always recruiting. That's why I said that. But people who look like me and you who want to be involved in politics.
Yes. So you're saying that always have barriers, but it's always overcome. You can overcome it.
That's right.
This is what I want to ask. What's your advice for people of color, indigenous, Black communities about leadership?
Well, first it's to recognize your own leadership, to remember that leadership comes in many, many forms, and that you are, the chances are, if you think about your own life, you have already in many ways already demonstrated leadership. No one needs to award you that label. It's something that you just do. And so all over this country, certainly in St. Jamestown, there are people, there are just, it's obviously not countless people because we could count the number, but really so many people who are doing things for the community day in and day out. If you're someone that picks up groceries for your neighbor because they're a senior or because they're incapacitated or they're disabled or something, that's leadership. If you're someone who organizes to clean up the park beside your neighborhood so the kids can play safely, that's leadership as well. So first, recognize your leadership. Don't be afraid to call yourself a leader. Don't be afraid to use your leadership. And we certainly want that. I mean, for me, one of the reasons that I ran for this role was that I was hoping to create a wider, easier pathway for that kind of leadership, because we really need it in politics. We really need people who understand their communities very well, choosing to run to represent them. Our House of Commons was actually supposed to be, for the commoner, and it's become something that has developed to be remote, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be the house of the people, and so it really needs the everyday people in it.
Thank you.
Annamie, St. James, and I think you've touched on this quite a bit, but I'm going to ask it anyway. St. Jamestown is a large community, and it's, as you know, it's rich in people resources. And the human capital here is pretty dynamic, but it also faces many challenges. What is your vision for St. Jamestown?
Again, another question that, it's a wonderful question because it makes me smile. St. Jamestown, it is extraordinary. As you said, it's big. It's really like a vertical city within a city. It has so many people living in it. And I am always amazed at how civic minded the community is. How many initiatives are going on, how many programs are going on in there, how many things neighbors are organizing on behalf of their community. And so one of the things that I want to see for the community is for it to get more support for all of those community-driven initiatives. Because in my opinion, this is a community that is doing really as much for itself as it can. And it just needs some additional support and help so that it can do even more. So I want to, I guess in the context of the pandemic, since we cannot forget that, I want to make sure that everyone who needs a test can get a test. I want to make sure that the community is prioritized once we get to the next level for vaccinations, because we know that the infection rates in St. Jamestown are significantly higher than other communities. I mean, you just cross over Bloor Street and the numbers drop, by 300%. It's really quite stunning. So I want to make sure that people have a living wage. And I want to make sure that they can stay at home when they're sick. These are all things that we've learned during the pandemic. And then I want to make sure that all of the supports, the social safety net supports, are in place so that people can live a life of dignity and also realize their potential and whatever dreams they have for themselves. And that's a long list, so I won't give you the whole list, but just to say that is really the objective. Every single person in Canada should be equipped with the supports that they need to be able to fulfill their potential and their vision of a satisfying life.
Thank you so much, Annamie. Those are all the questions that we have for you today, but I just wanted to thank you again so much for your time and for giving us a lot of things to think about. And thanks also for your passion for St. Jamestown and the leadership that you're providing to all of us as Canadians.
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you to both of you for the same. I'm sure you see, I hope you see the leadership in yourselves that I see in you. It's a real pleasure. And thank you very much. St. Jamestown is a very, very special community. And I love it. And, I'll always be there for it. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to say hello. Happy Black History Month to all of you. And we'll talk again.
Yeah, thank you again.
Please do not forget to like, comment, and share to our channel. Follow us on all our social media platforms. And for more information, please check out our website. Thank you.